An AEW wrestler has revealed they have backstage heat in the company, and an AEW star is set to return to television after a 5-month absence. But first, let's start with a story from last night's St. Patrick's Day Slam edition of AEW Dynamite, as the Jericho Appreciation Society would explain the logic behind their faction. Last week, Jericho would turn on his Inner Circle teammates Santana and Ortiz, forming his new group. Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Daniel Garcia, and 2.0 would explain that they are more than pro wrestlers, stating they are sports entertainers. Jericho would then explain why he chose to recruit Daniel Garcia and 2.0, starting with Garcia. He would cite a car crash that his new recruit was involved in back in 2019 and said, January 6, 2019, a group of indie wrestlers were in a horrible car crash. One of them shattered their tibia. The doctors said he'd never walk again. When I heard about this, even though I had never met any of them, I donated thousands of dollars to their recovery. And not only did that man heal his tibia, learn to walk, and return to this business, that man was this guy right here, Daniel Garcia. He appreciates me. He would then explain the addition of 2.0, making reference to a call he received from his old friend Kevin Owens, who reached out to Jericho when they were fired from WWE, and he would add, "Why do they appreciate me? A year ago, I got a call from my former best friend Kevin, who said, I need some help for some buddies of mine who just got fired by WWE. Can you please put them on Talk is Jericho so they can get a job? So I brought these two men into my house. I'd never met them before. At the end of that podcast, I realized these guys have passion and desire. AEW hired them. That's why they appreciate me." Jericho would then reintroduce the duo with brand new names, ditching their gimmick names for their real ones, with Matt Lee being known as Daddy Magic Matt Minard, and Jeff Parker will be now known as Cool Hand Angelo Parker. Speculation has emerged that the change occurred to avoid a clash of names with Matt and Jeff Hardy, which is why Jeff Parker is now Angelo. Elsewhere on AEW Dynamite, the return of a wrestling legend was teased. The Young Bucks and FTR would be involved in a backstage confrontation with the former AEW Tag Team Champions, teasing a rematch of their Full Gear 2020 bout. FTR would address the firing of their former manager Tully Blanchard, stating that he had lost focus. The Young Bucks would then confront them, referring to a new potential manager of FTR, Bret Hart. Matt Jackson would make an obvious tease that we could be seeing the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be returning to AEW, and he said, "No matter what you do, even if you hire the best there is, the best manager in the world, it's not going to matter, because deep down inside you're always going to remain the second best tag team in AEW." Interestingly, this wasn't the only reference to Bret Hart and the Night, as Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson would hit their opponents with a heart attack during their match with Chuck Taylor and Wheeler Yuta. The move was used by Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart during their time as a tag team. Bret has appeared in AEW once before at the Double or Nothing 2019 pay-per-view, which was their first ever show. He would be the one to unveil the AEW World Championship for the first time, and has since stated that he would be welcome to a return. For the past year, YouTuber Logan Paul has made several appearances for WWE. At last year's WrestleMania, he would be involved in the feud between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, which ended up with him receiving a stunner from Owens to a big pop. This year, Logan has returned to WWE, this time aligning himself with The Miz, now set to make his in-ring debut at WrestleMania 38, taking on the Mysterios in tag team action. This week, he would appear in an interview with Alex McCarthy of TalkSport, where he discussed his future in WWE after Mania. Logan would then discuss if he planned to wrestle full-time in the future and said, "To be honest bro, probably. Yeah, probably. It just has to make sense with my schedule. I'm doing so much stuff and I have to really be careful where I allocate my energy. This happened with boxing. At first I did it, I tried it out and loved it, so I kept doing it. Today was the first day because we had training. Today I was like, oh yeah, this is effing fun." So again, I fall in love with this sport and I soak in the energy at WrestleMania and feel like there's a future for me here, man. I'm gonna have a run with it. But it's not my decision, it's up to the fans. Either love me or hate me, that's great. But if they're indifferent to me, we got an effing problem and I'll probably get out of this sport. Logan Paul has no doubt the name value to be a star on WWE's main roster if he did choose to turn his attention to wrestling, and he has the athletic background to be believable. Whether or not he makes the full-time transition remains to be seen, but to me, he seems to fit the WWE mold. Now let's go back to AEW Dynamite from last night, where several tributes were made towards the late Scott Hall. Hall would sadly pass away earlier this week following 3 heart attacks caused by a blood clot. The show would start with Jim Ross saying "Hey yo," a catchphrase made famous by Razor Ramon. During the Hardys tag match with Private Party, Matt Hardy would attempt to hit Isiah Kassidy with a razor's edge, although it was reversed just in time. And finally, Britt Baker would wear Scott Hall inspired NWO gear during the main event, which featured the infamous white drips. This is similar to gear that she's wore in the past in tribute to Hall, but last time it featured Wolfpack inspired red drips. This follows tributes on both WWE Raw and NXT this week, with more likely to follow on SmackDown this Friday. And now let's go to our next story from last night's episode of AEW Dynamite, where a brand new champion was crowned. In the show's main event, Dr. Britt Baker DMD would put her AEW Women's World Championship on the line against hometown hero Thunder Rosa. The fight would take place in a steel cage in order to avoid any interference from Baker's friends Rebel and Jamie Hayter. The match would see numerous weapons in use, reminiscent of last year's St. Patrick's Day Slam Dynamite, where Rosa and Britt fought in a lights out match. For the second year in a row, Rosa would beat Baker, putting her opponent away with a Thunder Driver, becoming the new women's champion of AEW. Rosa is now the 5th person to hold the belt, ending Baker's 290-day reign. Baker has been champion since Double or Nothing 2021 last May, where she defeated Hikaru Shida, and has had easily the best run with the title so far. Rosa's victory ends a year-long rivalry, becoming the most dominant woman in all Elite Wrestling. Last night, AEW wrestler Joey Janela would reveal that he will not be renewing his AEW contract when it expires at the start of May 2021. During the same interview that he broke the news, he would reveal that he has backstage heat in the company thanks to an incident involving Eddie Kingston. In the interview with Denise Salcedo, Janela would explain why he isn't exactly the most liked man backstage, and he would say, "I worked with Eddie Kingston in Charlotte and I super kicked him in the face a little bit too hard, came in a little bit too hot, and I had been squatting probably 50 more pounds than I am used to be squatting, and doing 100 pounds more on the leg press, and I don't know, I didn't realize I had that type of power in my legs, and gave him a super kick and I broke his orbital bone." He was going into a feud with Chris Jericho, and I feel that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. A lot of guys, maybe some of the older heads, that believed my hype and believed that I was some kind of dangerous professional wrestler. I've had times where I've injured people, of course, everyone has, but once you get that reputation, it's hard to break that. I've had a string of bad luck throughout my AEW career, and that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back, but I don't know because they don't communicate with me. They did the same thing with Marco Stunt, they just stopped talking to him. But I appreciate them, but if you have talent relations, I know Christopher Daniels would love nothing more than to tell me I am no longer with the company. Since the interview was released, PW Insider have since reached out to sources within AEW that have confirmed the backstage heat towards Janela, with the injury to Kingston preventing him from traveling to TV, meaning plans for his feud with Chris Jericho had to be changed. On top of this, several talents are said to have been hurt when working with Janela in the ring. He has yet to return to an AEW taping since the incident in Charlotte, and the belief is that he won't be working for the company again before his deal expires on May 1st. And finally, Brian Cage is another AEW star that has been absent from television, with rumours circulating that he had fell out of favour with AEW management. With that said, it was recently reported that AEW extended his contract using the 1-year extension clause, suggesting they had plans for him going forward. Well, this has now been confirmed by the man himself. This week, Brian Cage would speak on the Going Broadway podcast and revealed that plans are in place for his return, and he would say, "There is a plan, I guess that's about as much as I can throw around out there. We'll wait and see. I've pitched different ideas. There was ideas that changed up towards the end. I came up with a couple of ideas. There are different creative ideas, some of them more detailed than others. It's all supposed to formulate into this plan that is underway." Cage hasn't been seen in AEW since his street fight loss to Ricky Starks in October 2021 on AEW Rampage. Cage would note that there is plenty of matches left for him in AEW, especially with all the recent signings the company have made. But who do you want to see Brian Cage work with upon his return? Let me know in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure you check out every released superstar that made it into WWE 2K22.